All right, well, we are ready to go with this next one. First, a round of applause for Liz, who just got done moderating the last 3 panels. Bravo, bravo, bravo. And yeah, so this one is about, and we are recording it. Just FYI, I'm sure you already caught on to that earlier, but we're recording it so that AIHEC can use it for educational promotional things. So this one is about jobs. I mean, this is the down and dirty. Okay, we got the in my terminology, there's editorial and technical. Editorial is, you know, what you did in the last panel, pretty much. You know, what's the story about? What's the content? Now we're getting into the technical. How do you do it? What's the equipment? What are the how do you get skills for the equipment? Things like that. It's a what would be the most practical information for anybody out there, because, you know, that's the beauty of Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College is it's a you don't have to be just out of high school. You can be 60 years old or even 64 years old like me. So I'm going to do a quick intro and then we're going to jump, but this time we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to start from the future and work backwards. In other words, Hunter, get ready. You are going to go first with your life story in in 5 minutes or so. Are you ready there, Hunter?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, that's the attitude we like. And you can hit your video now too, because we're recording the gallery view. There we go. Okay, cool. Awesome. So you ready? You got a little while. I'm going to babble about myself. You get your head psyched up for just an awesome introduction that's going to outshine all these other guys up here on the panel. All right. So my name is David McDonald. I am the program coordinator at Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College. I call myself the program coordinator because we just got a program in multimedia production, and it's a degree program now. We have certificates, diplomas, and Associate of Applied Science that Liz and I did all the bureaucratic headaches to get it going, and we succeeded last spring, and now we're up and running. And in fact, if all goes well, at the end of this semester, we will have our first AAS degree candidate. And it looks like, so it's a degree program that actually gives out degrees, which is kind of cool. But like I said, we're up and running, and this is the essence of what we are trying to do, is get people who are interested, give them the basic skills right in the beginning, and then see what direction they want to go in. So any information you want to give them about that is what we're after. So that's my life. And I should tell you, my past life was in the 80s and 90s. I was an international television news journalist for what is now Reuters Television in various bureaus all over the world, and burnt out on journalism, and then started doing documentaries, and have shifted since then to getting more into audio. So it's been video, audio, and photography all along, kind of thing. That's my background in a nutshell. So now let's turn it over to Hunter. Hunter, who are you?
Hi, I'm Hunter. I started out, well, in high school working for Fond du Lac College ODAS studio, just as a helper, I guess, and then eventually I went to do more of a paid role of like basically just learning the gear and learning how to use it and what it takes to take good pictures and good video and good audio and all that jazz. And so besides that, I was also on my own doing a little bit of photography and videography, just dabbling, seeing what I could do. And that kind of helped me get a internship with Mike and the PBS and Native Report. That kind of put me in a good position to then go on and get a job at WDIO as a camera person because I had experience. And then from there, it was basically just using the skills that I learned in knowing how to use a camera, knowing how to white balance, whatever it is, to make a show and make a high-paced, well-produced show. And now I'm working more on my own videography and stuff, just as a side gig.
With potential drone license thing coming up, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm working right now to get my drone license so I can do more aerial photography and videography.
Yeah.
For
that's so doable. I got a quick question for you before we go to the other folks, and that is, so you didn't go to school for this. You didn't. You just picked it up as you went along.
Yeah. Basically, I had access to the gear. My bad. And from there, I just kind of dabbled and figured out what I could do, what I couldn't do, what made sense and what looks good and all that. And then I was able to use those skills in a professional setting, and that was mainly the gist of it.
Excellent. Yeah, learning on the job kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. We're definitely going to come back to get your perspective on. Again, this is practical info for people on jobs in video production. So let's next go over to Ramona. We just heard in your last one about all the stages that you went through to get to where you're at now. But why don't you talk more about kind of like what Hunter was saying, the technical realities of what you learned. And
yes, we'll get into those technical realities. And I just want to start with sharing a beautiful story of what sparked my passion and what led me to the journey of becoming a storyteller. And that was a beautiful moment with my family on the beach of the Bad River Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. We're located on the tip of Lake Superior in Odana, Wisconsin. The Bad River Reservation has the most unique sloughs. We also have beautiful and rare circle rocks on the Bad River Reservation that make a complete globe. And you won't find those rocks any other place other than one other area on a different continent. So the Bad River Band is extremely unique, and we were on the beach one day, my family and I, during a naming ceremony, and I was given the name Great White Cloud, and my grandmother urged me to ask why he named me that, why I got that name. And I was told for everyone else's names in the family that he had gotten to, it was a clear sky. And when he got to my turn, a beautiful feather cloud formed over Lake Superior. And my grandmother urging me to ask that question really sparked this curiosity inside me and led me to the conclusion of you can, as a storyteller, get answers to what you're wondering. We can go out into the community, and if somebody might not know why something is a certain way, or, we are watchdogs on the government, we can go and we can ask those questions, and we can get to the root of answers that can really improve society and better lives for the human race. Journalism is so important, and we make such an impact in the community. It's a passion of mine to be a voice for the voiceless, and to have the platform to be working for the Native Report Show is an honor and a privilege, and I am so lucky to be where I am now. The thinking back on, the studying and the programs I was a part of that kind of led me to this position, I would think that it is a struggle, it's a struggle to work with technology. I remember studying the video editing in college and thinking, I can't do this. This is really, really hard. The editing system will crash. Your projects could disappear. You have to constantly be ready for the worst case scenario to happen when you're working with technology. One day it could be your best friend and it could be running smoothly, and the next day you are crying at your computer. And also carrying the gear, and talking to your interviewee subject, keeping that conversation going while you're putting the camera up to get, oh, I forgot the SD card at home. It's like, I don't know how we do it. I do not know how we do it, but we do. And
well,
yeah.
If you, Mike and Don, if you, I got to do a follow-up before we get to you guys. I just stand by. So, Ramona, so there are two things that jumped out there. First of all, is the curiosity part. So you got to be curious about what's going on. That's, the element that's going on in the brain. But number two is you also got to know how to carry the tripod, or how to put the SD card in, or how to do the white balance, or whatever. So there's that technical aspect of the job that could be overwhelming, but and gear has changed quite a bit. So
it's a constant learning process. I should probably attend your program again.
You are welcome. Let me ask you, I just to date things, because this is maybe more Mike and Don can nod. When you say you were at school and actually taking classes learning video editing, are we talking digital? Are we talking tape to tape?
It was it was Final Cut Pro at that time that I was training on. So, yeah. But the instructors did work in technologically advanced time. I mean, the advancements of technology is they were teaching us about how they were piecing together film and running it through something to get it on television, and how the shot sheets were 100% way detailed. And I can't imagine that. And, WDSE-WRPT has Denny Anderson as a host of the Almanac North show with us. And he, coming up in December, he'll be in the business for 60 years now. And so I asked him, were you back in the newsroom days where people were like smoking cigarettes at the anchor desk? Like, what was that like? Like, that's wild, Like, I don't know, like, I can't believe, I think it, I would think that it was harder then, but then I guess it's hard to compare, like now, it's multi-platform, like your program that you guys offer, the multimedia production, it's so wild, like how many different things you can learn to juggle and become expert at.
Yeah, and the more you know how to juggle, the more marketable you are.
Absolutely.
So this is where the dinosaur part of it can come in. My journalism stuff is post film, meaning I'm a video. I had it easy. I had video. I didn't have to deal with why a cutting room is called a cutting room is because they literally cut the film in the cutting room. That's the edit room. But I had it easy. I had analog video. U-matic. Oh, it was awesome. So I didn't actually get to the digital stage till after I got done with journalism, my journalism start. So yeah, and this is the part that this is 2021. It is nice to, refer to the old days, but they're gone. I mean, it's done. The smartphone does a gazillion, babillion more things than all the gear that I used with, for decades. But so
wow.
Thank you, Ramona. I know it's interesting, it's historic, but it's not relevant. Let's put it that way. Which is why, like Hunter doing the drone thing, that's relevant. And anyways, let's
There should be a museum. There should be a museum that goes through all the stages of the industry, TV industry.
Actually, I'm getting to you, Mike. Don, don't worry. The museum of the Museum of News or whatever in DC, ran out of bucks. I think some university bought it. So this was the other one, is you are a rare person, Ramona, because you are interested, just let alone you have a job in, but you are interested in this bizarre old dinosaur field called journalism. How many journalism programs all over the place have just withered up and died if they were strictly journalism, because it's gone, it's done. I mean, it's all everything. So that's why journalism is an aspect of our program at Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College. Am I plugging the program? But I do. I try to inject it into it because it's a critical aspect. And every 1 out of 100 or 1,000 maybe now that, like you, that gets it and is into it, the whole watchdog of the government, the whole giving a voice to the voiceless, that's true. That is still 100% true. So thank you, Ramona. And now let's just move over to Mike, if you don't mind, give us a little, Mike, why are you on this panel? You snuck in,
Well, I actually, Don is the supervisor up at WDSE, and when I saw that I wasn't listed, I texted her and said, "Hey, I'm not listed," and she said, "Well, just show up." So
there we go.
Oh, that's fine. No, that's great. And I'm really honored here that you had asked representation from WDSE. The technical aspect, when I said I started working at a news station, I just started working as a news photographer, of course, knowing nothing about video. But like I said, I did know about film and cameras. Oftentimes the lens of a camera, whether it's a video camera, motion picture camera, still camera, they're still the same. You still have to know how to work the f-stop, how to work the aperture settings, how to, you still have to know the basics if you're going to be working with video equipment. I did join a news department at a time when they were still doing video editing, tape to tape, analog, and had that training. Like I said, I didn't know anything about video production until I entered a newsroom. And that is completely different than working on like a documentary or a series that I work on. I've done documentary work for the station also, writing, producing, of course, even now going into editing myself again, working in Premiere Pro. So there's a lot of different aspects that you have to know from a technical standpoint. Working with Premiere Pro, you have to know the basics of editing for one thing. The way we achieve our final product might have changed quite a bit, but I think there are still basics there that everyone, all of us that are working in the field or have worked in the field have to know. We all start somewhere, and it's always at the beginning, and those basics are what we build upon. And that's my take on the technical side.
Would you say that the technical aspect of be it documentary, news production, whatever, was that intimidating for you?
No, not only when I started working with it. whether it was a camera, whether it was the editing deck, whether it was working with a piece of audio equipment. It was just for that initial time. When you get a little bit more knowledgeable about the working spaces, it becomes easier. And, and I think that builds on confidence about what you're doing too. There's another aspect to this also that often gets overlooked.
I was setting you up for that one, because the more, even if you're a producer, a writer, on-air talent, the more you know about the technical side of things, the better the job's going to get done, basically, right? That is a true statement.
It can be, but sometimes, it can create some interesting moments. I remember working news and getting my piece of video to the deck within 10 seconds of it airing, and then there's always, it doesn't matter what you're working on, there's always seems to be something that you have to go and fix or correct or take a second look at.
Yeah. Or that will make you, as Ramona said, cry over the computer because the transitions are gone, or whatever.
I think we've all done that too.
Oh, yes.
I think we've all done that.
And then you start worrying that the computer will short circuit because of the tears hitting it, right?
Nice.
Yes, definitely.
Exactly. Right.
All right, Don, let's go over to you. Let's go ahead, take it away.
Oh dear. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. So I'm going to do a brief, my background, just so, because I'm new to the panels today, although I was here last night with Missy Whiteman and she was amazing as always. And, again, I am honored to be a part of this. WDSE is honored to be a part of Thunder inDIGIfest. Our station is committed to Native Report and supporting Indigenous voices across our programming as a station, both in terms of bringing stories from across the PBS system, but also the content we create internally. So this is an incredibly strong value for our station, and so excited to be a part of this. In terms of my background, so I'm broadcast content manager. So I manage the team that creates the content that comes out of our station. And so I'll collaborate with the Native Report team, helping organize the season and that kind of thing. And then they go and do the amazing work that they do. I will say that how I got here is a little bit weird in this. And I think that most people I know have this weird journey to this field. I know very few people who intended to end up here. And somehow we're all like, how'd I get here? And I think that may be different now, to your point. I feel like I've heard this come up a lot of like, there weren't necessarily film programs or good film programs 20 plus years ago. And so you kind of learn by doing. I learned in public access, quite frankly. And fell in love with it as a hobby, and then started as a camera operator floor crew for WDIO, the ABC affiliate in Duluth during college. It was a job I could do during college that I'd learned from public access, and somehow morphed into a news reporter there, and then left news, and because I realized it just wasn't a good fit for me, and moved to the Twin Cities and started my own company along with Jamie Lee, who was my business partner at that time. And we started our own video production company and immediately started making documentary films, and both for PBS as well as for nonprofits and other organizations, government organizations. And so did that for about 20 years, and then moved up to Duluth again to be a part of the WDSE team. And the reason for the transition from making the content to managing the creation of the content, I guess, had to do with a passion for wanting to explore how we bring in more voices into public media. How do we do this intentionally and thoughtfully? And I've been thinking more and more about that. So when the position opened, and I'm like, one of my favorite places in the world, Duluth. Perfect. So, and have not regretted that decision ever since. So that was the very short version of how I got here. I will say the technology piece, I started in straight cut editing as well. It was, and actually, if we really want to go back, I was trying to make videos by connecting two VCRs in junior high,
Right.
and you know,
Wow.
like press play, press record, pause.
Right.
Yeah. But again, didn't think it was a job. It was just a hobby that I thought was really fun. But fell in love with editing during straight cut editing, and then once digital nonlinear editing came around, so the Final Cut Pro, the early Final Cut Pro. All of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, this is it. You can just tell these stories in a way that you couldn't before. And also it was financially possible to start a company 20 years ago in a way that it wouldn't have been 25 years ago. Because all of a sudden the digital revolution was there. All of a sudden you could buy Final Cut Pro and a Mac instead of buying an $80,000 Avid system. So the bar was lowered. So like all these technology changes have, I think, continued to open the doors for more and more people who have not had the opportunity to do this work. And now it's iPhones and TikTok. We were talking about that last night with Missy, and kind of joking about it, but also there's some really talented people making some stuff on iPhones and TikTok that I would not want to ignore. So it's fascinating. Towards the point of knowing all the things, I feel like I'm all over the place here, but one of the things that I think is also important in this conversation for people who are entering this field is to learn as much as you can about as much as you can, to be able to, be a multi-platform producer like Ramona is. She's not just producing, she's editing, she's shooting, she's also doing social media. And I think that makes you incredibly marketable in this space. If you're hoping to work with other people, you're hoping to work for a station. So, I think that the more skills you bring to the table, the better. I think, we're not in a time anymore where you can leave film school and be like, I am a cinematographer and that is all, I mean, you could try and maybe you'll be lucky, but the odds are not in your favor. So I don't know. I'm all over the place here.
Yeah, no, but wait, there's one I wanted to get at. One question is, what was it that burned you out on journalism and got you over to documentary?
It was the format at the time. I was frustrated by, some stories that I thought were incredibly important to share with the community and to really get into the gray area, the nuance of those stories. And I felt like, there were some stories that we just couldn't go there. And the community needed to know this kind of gray area and nuanced information in order to make informed decisions about how they felt about issues. And so I was like, I'm making documentaries. I'm going to and so my first film was a feature documentary. I went from like 30-second packages to an hour-and-a-half feature-length documentary. Because why not?
It must have been liberating, right? Number one,
it was
not to have the piece ready to go at 5 o'clock.
That too.
To take a complicated thing and smoosh it into 90 seconds or whatever. So I get that. It took me a lot longer than you to learn that, but it was a huge liberation. And this is dinosaur thinking in a way. Is that we're talking about 90 seconds. You have 90 seconds to explain all the problems in the Middle East. Boom. And then you say, no, I want to be a documentary. So when I moved to northern Minnesota, I can take a week, 2 weeks. I can shoot this and then grab another picture from there. It was wonderful. But then it was all, how are you going to get it broadcast? How are you got to put it in this and that. I don't mean to lessen the impact of WDSE, but now, boom, TikTok or my YouTube channel, I'm making money off of that or whatever. So I'm not, by the way, but you can. So the number one, it was money for the gear in the old days. You just couldn't do it. Only the big corporations could. Then it was distribution or broadcasting. You had to only go through the channels that existed. But now you literally have the freedom, the ability to do anything you really want. So here's my question for you. And we're getting back to Hunter now. Get ready. You're on the spot again.
All right.
Since you represent all young people in the entire world, you are speaking for them now, and we're quoting you. This is as journalism terms, according to Hunter Jaakola, who was speaking for all young people in the world. You have, from a certain perspective, there are opportunities out the yin yang right now for you to have your voice heard, tell your story. You could do it on the TikTok. You could, get these skills and instantly put it up on YouTube.
Mhm.
Do you think, because you're able to do it right away in real time, that the desire to learn professional skills in this field has just become irrelevant?
No, I don't think so, because I guess maybe going through the classical training of it, of like, oh, this is how you do this, that, and the other thing, is less important of like doing it the right way. But everybody still likes seeing a well-shot video and a well-shot film or whatever, like even a well-shot TikTok. Like it's more visually appealing to people when they see, oh, this looks really nice, or this sounds really nice or whatever. But I think also, like, I'd call it like the free market of media now. Like anybody can make anything and anybody can hear it, so you don't have to put all the time and effort in to tell a story. Like you don't have to be perfect on everything to make a good story and share it with the world. But it does help when you want something to look nice. Like if you see professional like YouTubers or TikTokers or whatever, they still have nice gear. They have nice cameras, nice audio setup. Like they know how to use it and they know what they need to do to make it look good. And they're not making crappy video and audio just because they don't have to, But
you seem to be touching on something that, to drop a name, Gary Farmer said in the earlier panel today, that it's the idea, it's the content, it's what is the story that you're telling that is going to get someone's attention. Mm-hmm. So is that the priority? Is the story?
Yeah, it's definitely the content. Like whenever you hear somebody talking about what they do on the internet or whatever, they talk about, this is my content, this is what I make, and this is the story I tell, or this is what I want to share with the world, rather than I need this camera in order to do what I need to do. Like it's more about like, oh, I make videos of really cool scenery, or I make videos of current political issues, or I make videos or whatever of, I don't know, whatnot. It's the story, it's the substance of what is going out on the internet. Like that's the important part. That's the thing that draws people in and keeps them looking at that video, rather than be like, oh, that looks nice. Next, like
cinematography stuff. Okay, so here's the next question, which Ramona and Mike, like you to answer this one too, and Don too, if you want to jump in. But Hunter, speaking for the entire youth population of the world, then if that's the case, if it's the story and there's no longer the limiting factor of, if you are a particular minority, let's say, in a society that's dominated by a particular culture, I'm saying indigenous and white culture, why is it that the minority communities still feel reluctant to tell their story? Now that they have the ability, they have the possibilities, why is it hard to come up with the story ideas through a perspective through their perspective?
I love native TikTok. I love what I'm seeing on.
You got saved by the bell there, Hunter. Go for it, Ramona.
No, I think Hunter should answer.
Oh, I think, I guess I don't know why it's difficult, other than maybe people don't have that much drive to produce what they, I guess I'm not sure. I do love seeing it though. I love seeing, like, anytime I see an indigenous person or someone who's like talking about their culture or whatever on TikTok or YouTube, whatever, I follow them instantly just because I'm like, that sounds like cool media. Like that sounds like something interesting. That I'm not going to hear from something bland, you know?
Mm-hmm. But do you think, is there a way to encourage your colleagues, to your peers, to tell their story?
Definitely. I think you could build your own story, tell your own story. And that, I know personally, whenever I see someone else telling their story, that makes me want to tell my story more. Like I want to be like, okay, anybody can do it, first of all. And second of all, that's cool. Like I like what they're doing. I want to try that too, you know?
All right. That's a good one. All right. So Ramona, what you were heading down a direction?
I would just piggyback off what Hunter was saying, and like native TikTok is huge right now, and folks that might not have that video production background, they are putting together amazing videos that are illuminating and showcasing native cultures, and it's really raising it's really bridging cultural divide, because I think when people are watching these videos and getting a little taste of somebody else's life, a walk in their shoes, I think it's really just great for, the betterment of society. And so I interviewed Lavender Kingbird for a WDSE-WRPT Slice story about her use of TikTok in particular and bringing her native perspective to TikTok. And she brought up this woman who is up in Canada and doing traditional, singing with, I think it was with like syllables, words, but just a traditional way that in that community, the throat, and it was just, I had never heard that before. So then I went and looked up who she was talking about and was just amazed that it was so beautiful. So I think social media is such an amazing tool, and the way people are using it, I'm super impressed. I'll see stuff that people are doing independently, maybe without, a TV station behind them,
So Ramona, but are you saying that young people or Indigenous people in general, they aren't hindered by by telling their stories?
Here's the thing, on their own terms, maybe more so, because I think there is a distrust that is existent with media and with, I've noticed when I came into the Duluth community and identified as a Native American journalist, so many people did message me in the Native community and area communities, telling me that I should be looking into this. I should be digging deeper into this, issue maybe that's plaguing the Native community. But I did also, so there was a lot of rush of like people coming to me for that to share. But then I also felt that, with maybe a journalist that is not familiar with that particular Native community and they're showing up there to cover something that is tragic or, a negative, bad thing, it is, I think a lot of Indigenous folks are, used to seeing journalists parachute in to cover the bad, and there's not so much highlighting of the good, which kind of mirrors Don's experience maybe in the newsroom, where there is so many, really important stories that need to be heard. And the beautiful thing about Native Report is we illuminate the positive. And I think folks are more comfortable with sharing and opening up to us about that. But there's so many layers there of, I think, how Native people might see the media, but I also see a lot of, elevating of, maybe a new Native business, so
So no, I get
it's getting better.
It's getting better, and it ties perfectly into Mike, and go and jump into you of what you said in the last panel about how Native Report was semi or whatever brought about because of the Red Lake shooting and the horrible coverage by the mainstream media, that there wasn't happening. So now it's 16 years that Native Report has been telling the stories, and it's having an impact, and now it's nationally syndicated. So there does seem to be a progress in that direction. But getting back to that initial one of, do you still feel there's a reluctance by Indigenous people to tell their story?
Yeah, I do. And you heard Ramona use the term parachuting in. I used to work for tribal government. I was a public relations person for a tribal government. And anytime there was anything negative, that's the only time you saw the media come in. I think I'll use the Duluth market as an example. Duluth market, you're in a ceded territory. This is all native land. You go straight up the shore, you have a Native Nation in Grand Portage. You go take Highway 53 to the Iron Range, you run into a Native Nation, the Boys Fort Band. You take I-35 south, you run into a Native Nation, the Mille Lacs Band. And you think there would be some kind of understanding of these communities, these Native nations, but there just seems to be some reluctance. I did work news too, right? And the format for the news department, and one of the news departments I worked at was action news. If it bleeds, it leads, that type of thing. The news isn't really a good place to get Native stories out, and that might be some reason why there might be people who are reluctant to talk to the media, but now, and I think I alluded to this earlier, that, the ways to get the stories out has changed. There isn't just one newspaper. There just isn't, one TV station, there's a multitude of ways to get those stories out. And those stories are getting out. We might not report on all of Indian country during one season. But, my mother, who was an educator, always told me that when she went to a convention, she used to love hearing about how other natives were living, what they were doing, what their cultural practices were. And that's the kind of way I see Native Report, that's what we do. We report on what that other nation is doing, and maybe next year we'll head out in the opposite direction and find out what's going on. The thing about it is that, there are stories that are probably too many for us to get to in a lifetime, but they're all important. And for any of the students who may be watching this, don't be afraid to take a story, run with it, produce it, get it out there. You can't rely on traditional media like news media. But
there we go. Well, so I'm going to take it up a step for Don. And when you say traditional media, let me frame it in this way. You mean colonial media. You mean traditional European media. Journalism schools were all designed for journalism, newspaper, the lead, It's all been designed in that historical fashion, as opposed to storytelling. And what you were talking about, what you're doing in Native Report, and also how at the other panels they were saying, no, you tell a story. It could be about a bird on a tree, and it makes you think about something that 2 days later, and that's communication, or that's the essence of it. So Don, in your position, has got in charge of it in PBS, which again, we're not talking a commercial broadcaster that's dying and begging for the ad dollars and all that stuff. You have a little more freedom, let's say. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this? Which way is the direction going in this conversation?
Ooh, there's so many things you could go towards in that. I will say that PBS is a different bird in the sense that part of our mission, as a station, but also as a system, is about education, and it's about so we're not driven by we're not driven by those same corporate dollars, and because that we're able to tell stories that maybe it's not sexy to tell. There's no great boy, Coca-Cola is really going to dig this story if we do it. Let's do it. It's just, that's not where we live. And so, I think that PBS is a different animal, but it's a part of an older system. So it's, acknowledging that and then saying, what do? We are in this unique position to do things differently because of our organizational structure as a nonprofit. And so I think we would definitely lean that direction. It's a tough call. I will also say that there's some questions about, experts, and there's a whole journalism conversation about how journalism has been structured historically and where it is today, and who is an expert, who's qualified to talk on any experience.
There you go.
And my background, my BA was in political science and women's studies. And so the women's studies part of my brain says, that the personal is political, that people's lived experiences are important. And I think that connects with this conversation, this idea that you don't have to have a doctorate in something or be a CEO to have a legitimate claim in the conversations that our communities are having. And so, I could go on and on about this, but I also feel like, one key piece thinking about students watching this and the idea of jobs and where do they go next? And, we're talking about the idea of kind of being the master of your own destiny and TikTok and just go out and make it. And I completely agree. And that's kind of what I did after I left news. On the flip side, and eyeballs are important, right? But none of these things necessarily lead to a professional financial stability situation for that creator. And so there is this tension of, I'm making great things. How do I pay my bills? And so I think it's a combination of continuing to make the things and make great things. And then, networking and trying to figure out how you get to those places, how you connect with those places that see the world the way you do, whether it be PBS, whether it, whatever that is, that may be more sustainable. Because I think one of my fears about, there's a lot of programs building up young creators in this industry, all over the place. And they, they're getting the tools to make the things, but then there's an entrepreneurial piece if you're going to go solo that is critical. And not everybody's built that way. And that's okay. Yeah. So how do you make this sustainable? And that's a whole other panel.
No, but this is you're bringing up the realistic part as a manager, which is always good. Is that there is the narrow side, which is why I should add as another plug for our program that you have to take a business management class in order to get even the certificate. That's like the first level. You have to take a business class. because that's
Awesome.
part of the deal. Yeah, you know, it is reality. I mean, that's where we're at. Thank you so much, Don, for bringing it back to what the whole thing was about instead of our philosophical tangent there of supposed to be about jobs and telling people. But it's all part of it. So thank you, Don. We are just about there. So I'm going to go reverse order this time. We're going to go Mike and then Ramona and then Hunter as a spokesman for the youth is going to have the final word. And that is, what would you like to say to people, kind of like what Don just said, of their jobs in video production? Is it just like a fantasy? Is it something realistic? There's a gazillion different kinds of jobs. What would you say to them regarding real life, practical jobs in video production? We'll start with Mike.
Well, there are jobs in video production, but you have to find them. You have to search for them. You can luck out sometimes and have somebody who knows that there's a job open somewhere, and that would be great, but you have to search for them. I can't, oh gosh, I just blanked on the name of the website that I used to search for communication jobs. I'm blanking on it right now, I'm sorry. You know, you just got to keep searching for them. You heard Ramona, she did a huge search nationwide about landing a position, an entry-level position. But even if it's a volunteer type position, I think you should take advantage of it, because this is all experience. And that's what you're trying to build up, is experience and letting people know that, yes, you can too do that job. You know, handling a camera is a technical, you have to have some technical knowledge to work a camera. And the more experience that you have, whether it's writing, whether it's behind the camera, you know, even gripping, you know, that's still an essential part of a job. You know, you got to actively search, and, you know, don't be passive about it.
Okay. All right. Well, we don't want to get Liz mad, who has her next one starting at top of the hour. So Ramona, bring it home before we get to Hunter with, is it worth it? Is it a worthwhile thing to even consider jobs in video production?
Absolutely. It's creative. It's fun. It's almost like what I do in my job doesn't feel like work. And that's the best job. And you can create something. You go somewhere, you talk to people, and you create that to share with the world. And it's a really satisfying, powerful, beautiful thing. And I would just like to quickly say that the Native American Journalists Association has a list of jobs on its website. They have a job board. I linked that in the chat. You folks in the industry purchase job listings from them. And so like there's like, for instance, news director with Virginia Public Media, senior editor with Suffolk University, freelance Scholastic Classroom Magazines, you know, Southern Education Reporter. There's so many jobs in video production that they list on that job board. So I would encourage everybody to go.
Good. All right. Thank you, Ramona. And Hunter, here it is, the final word.
I think there are definitely jobs in media, and I've found jobs in media, and they've always been really good jobs to me. But I think the bigger aspect now is social media, and those kind of, I guess, jobs is when people create their own following and create their own businesses, you know, whether that's like ad deals, or like if you have a big enough following, you can simply just ask like, hey, can you support me in my thing? Here's my link to whatever, you know. But that's another way you can basically create your own job in media, whether you have something to say or whether you want to make certain content or whatever.
Hunter, brilliant, because what you just confirmed is that the future has nothing to do with WDSE and broadcasters, has nothing to do with degrees from universities. It's just go out there and do it yourself. Thank you for shooting us all down. I'm only kidding. But it's a whole new world, and there's a gazillion directions to go in. And if you're interested in telling a story, you can do it now. And as I think someone said, Ramona, I think you said it about find a mentor. find someone who can help you, point you in the right direction. As Don said, be an entrepreneur, come up with it, make it all happen. And I think it's all doable. Well, I would like to thank you very much for having this little thing. I find this, yeah, like Liz, I get excited too. We all get excited. Yay. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I will say again, thank you very, very, very much to all of you at WDSE for the support from, well, it was Dawn who started it all with her Missy thing. It was one little conversation and that turned into, oh, what if we show her films? Oh, what if we, so thank you very much. And for all the support that you've given us all the way through to get us to this stage where we're having great panels and it's a lot of fun. So thank you. And I hope you stick around for the next one, which is about actually getting a freelance job somewhere, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Miigwech.
Gigawaba min
Thank you.
Minawa.
Gigwa ben Minawa.